Hey everyone, it's Zach here, and we are going to start a little video here on the Cub Cadet. You might not be able to see it, but there's a lawnmower back in there, and when we buy our new place, I'm going to need a larger mower to deal with the yard. So I thought, I know it needs a little work, and so I asked my dad what his idea was with it, and he's willing to let it go. Obviously, they haven't used it in a little while, so we're going to have to dig it out of there, try to get it on a trailer, and it's going to be quite the ordeal. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other riding mower and my strap and pretty much just get back there and try to yank it. Hopefully we can get it out of there. Let's give it a shot. I did bring a few tools. Obviously I got the ramps, brought a generator and an air compressor because the tires are probably flat. And the gas can, it's actually mixed gas because I thought there might be some leaves and I wanted to blow the leaves off before I bring it on the freeway so that it doesn't mess with anybody else's driving. And here's the strap I'm going to use to hopefully yank it out. So, yeah. Oh, and I brought Phoenix because he's a good helper. Okay, let's try to yank that thing out of there. Okay, I've made a little path. I was going to cut this branch, but then I realized that's kind of holding up this whole bowed out tree thing, so we're not going to mess with that too much. But here we are. I'll make sure I don't really step on any of the poison ivy. Here we are, and here it is in all of its glory. I think it has kind of lower hours on it. Some connectors here that are all bunged up a little bit in the motor. Definitely is a project, but we'll get her one way or another. Nice. Okay, we got our tow strap hooked up. There is one stump right there to the side, so it might get hung up on that. I might have to kind of weasel it out, but my strap's pretty long. We got to pull forward here. I'm gonna bring back the air compressor and actually blow up some tires because right now they're still in the bead, and if I roll it, I don't know if those front ones, they look pretty flat, and if I roll it they're gonna probably pop their own bead. So I'm gonna bring back that air compressor and get that going. So I brought back the generator and the air compressor, and it's a really smart idea that I did that because those tires were very flat, completely flat, and especially the front ones, once they pop off the bead, it can be really hard to get them back. So I put enough air in them, and I kind of was able to move it a little bit to get it around the stump, and now I'm just going to give her a yank, and I'll probably have to run back here a couple different times to mess with that wheel, the steering wheel, but let's just see. Alright. Oh yeah. thing. That first time that thing has moved in a long time. It's coming pretty straight now, so it's coming good. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Straighten her out. It's alive. All right. out from the. Yeah, I wonder. Suppose the hours won't come on unless it has power. And then this thing. Oh, okay. I have that whole motor unbolted. Wow, I wonder if I can find those parts. Okay. This is where it was sitting. You can see where where all the tires were. Looks like underneath there was a whole entire nest. So today I ended up getting really busy when I was loading this thing, and I got talking with Sarah, and next thing I knew it was just, I was heading out, but I did get it home, and I'll show you guys what it needs and what the plan is. So this is how the motor looks. I haven't done anything other than removed the bottom pulley. So this is how it looks. You have your exhaust side, which there's no exhaust on it. The valve cover was off, so these rockers and the springs are really rusty. And there's no plastic shroud. The flywheel is very rusty. I'd probably have to sand that down quite a bit. And on this side, there's no air cleaner, and I'm sure this has tons of water in it. So, oh yeah, and it needs a fuel cap. In fact, it needs a little bit more than what I expected, but I'll just go through it. We gotta do something with the motor. There's supposed to be a bar and pin that run from here up to this hole right here. That's missing. The fuel tank doesn't have a cap on it. Don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. The seat got a hole in it. And of course the battery's dead. So what is my plans? Well, this here is a Kohler 19 horsepower motor. And from the beginning when we had bought this lawn tractor, it always had a tight spot. So you'd try to start it, and it was like the valves. It was like the valves were never adjusted properly from factory. I'd always have to hand turn it so that it could get enough momentum. And once it ran really nice, but it always seemed to have kind of that issue. So for me to go through, it probably needs a solenoid. Who knows, it probably will need a new starter. If not, I'll have to take it completely apart and clean it. The exhaust, plus new gasket, because this one's done. The valve cover plus gasket, new spark plug, new rocker arms, new springs, new rods, new carb, new air filter. It starts to add up, and to buy the genuine parts, it's equivalent to me going to Northern Tool and buying essentially a 20 horsepower motor that would fit right on here. and I believe it's pretty much plug and play. That's what I'm working with now. So that's the current plan. Is a couple of the things I'm gonna have to order. I'm gonna have to order that little arm. The new motor I'm sure is gonna need a battery, so we're gonna have to go get a battery. Trying to think. I don't know if I don't think the other one has the has a built-on gas tank, so I'm gonna have to find order a cap for the gas tank. But rather than mess around with this motor, because the last memory I have of it, normally the exhaust it comes around and sits right up front. My last memory of this thing running was the exhaust shield was red hot and this was dripping oil onto it. So that tells me that those valves weren't adjusted right, because it was letting out extremely, I don't know if that would be opening too soon or what the case would be, but it was red hot. And so if I had to roll the dice, I don't want to put $300 into a motor that's probably junk. Might need to be re-ringed or whatever. I'd rather just spend the $500 and get a brand new motor. This particular model, if you try to look these up used, they go for like $800. So if I put $500 into the motor and then let's just say another $100 into everything else, I have a pretty fresh lawn tractor. Because you can tell just by looking at it, it doesn't have a ton of use. It's really, really clean. I did hook up the battery to the to this battery. I jumped it and I turned it on, and it said, the display here, it said 815.1. So this says 1/10. So I don't think there's any way that this would have 815 hours on it, but I also don't think that it would have 8 hours on it. So I'm thinking it had 81 hours and 5/10 of another. So 81 hours on this machine, I think that's pretty low in my opinion. I mean, for cutting grass, we used to cut a lot of grass. It would take us 6 hours to just mow the majority of it. So if you do that, that's 12 mows, 12 times mowing, so not that many. And the tires seem pretty good. Everything else seems good, and essentially you can see even with the shields here, it looks pretty good. I remember when it got this crack, I hit a tree. I was upset about that. These are original blades. And this is one of the smoothest mowers I had ever driven. So I'm sure in the long run it'll need that. The belts are probably kind of rotten, so we'll see how long that kind of stuff lasts. But I think for a base of what it is, I think it's worth it. It just needs a little TLC. I did bring it to the place and pressure wash it, and it just needs a little scrubbing, but that's where we're at. I'm going to put a brand new motor on it and go from there. All right, we got it off. Now all we have to do is take a few measurements of the bolt pattern, which I don't even have any of those bolts, so I'll have to try to get some self-tapping large ones, and we'll be good. All right, here we are. Just got out of Northern Tool, and we got the replacement motor, a battery, a solenoid, a fuel line, and a fuel filter. So that should be pretty much everything. The only thing I couldn't find was the gas cap, so we'll have to figure that out. But that was all the big stuff we needed. Let's go home. Alright, so today, as you've seen, we stopped at Northern Tool and we got most of the things we need for this rebuild. We got a new battery, we got some fuel line. Luckily my dad had mentioned to me that he had taken the fuel line off of the tractor. We got a fuel filter and a solenoid because the old solenoid, which is hiding back here, it's actually right here. I'm in the process of taking it off, but I figured that's probably bad because that's something that always goes bad. So we got those, and then the biggest purchase was this engine. So it's a Briggs & Stratton. Let's take a peek at it. We're going to gently open it and inspect it and make sure. Okay, so this engine is a 19 horsepower 540cc motor. Comes with the electric starter. The muffler, big thing was I needed the muffler deflector. Also comes with the bolt for the throttle cable linkage. Has some sort of shipping oil in it. I'm gonna have to drain that right away. But just on first glance, we got the 6-prong connector. Actually comes with some fuel line on it, which is surprising. It looks like it's, we'll have to see. But yeah, connector wise, it looks about the same. Oh. Yeah. This had to be rough, about 5 3/4 on the carb side. It's got 5 3/4 on the carb side. Perfect. 7 on the other side. Ooh, nice weld. Yep. I think this thing's gonna directly fit on. Alright, I decided to actually go straight down. It's gonna hit right on this for the most part, but when I had it going forward, even at the angle, it would have shot out and then just went right up in here. So at least this way it should exhaust out and under. Before it would exhaust kind of against the front here, and it just didn't seem like it would work quite right. So now what I'm working on is getting my drive belt off. I took out the battery tray, which just sits in there under pressure, and this here is the top belt, and the one I'm changing is this one. So this one here is the top, this one here is the bottom. It's all slacked right now because it's not actually on the front pulley. But up here on the front pulley, you can see, you see that? So that's how I know that this is a bad one. It's just completely busted up. And it's cracked more than just in that one spot. So we gotta swap this out. All I think I have to do is I got this in here, and when I put pressure on it, the spring tension mechanism loosens this top one. And once I get that top one off, the bottom one should just slide up and out. Okay, so this bracket right here that keeps the belt from flying off, I just came up underneath with my hand, grabbed onto it, and pulled on it really hard and bent it back. And I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm just gonna bend it all the way back, because if we look here, this is large in there. So it's that big, large bracket, and it goes, I believe, underneath this other piece. So I'm just going to bend it by hand to make the process easier, and then I can bend it back when I'm done. Alright, we have this belt off. Yeah, I'm happy I changed that. I don't think that it would have had any life left in it at all. So, awesome. I matched it up to my new one. It seems about the same. So we're going to get that new one put on there, and sweet. Alright, we got that belt put on there. That was a super big pain, but it's on there. The hardest part was having to remove, get you guys in here, there's two pulleys right up in there, and I had to remove the far one because it kind of zigzags in between. Hopefully I have the orientation right. Comes through, zigzags around, and then heads all the way back. Alright, here's our solenoid, our old one. Two connectors on top, two that snap on. Same one that we got, two snap-ons, two connectors on top. So I'm just going to remove one, plug it in, and keep doing that all the way across. Okay, we're running out of light here, but I did get this unhooked so I can try to get it out. I wasn't going to, but there's just a little more in there than I would like, so I'm just going to try to shake it and maybe bump it to get the big chunks out. The small stuff I'm not worried about, but I'm actually surprised, being that this sat for years, I'm surprised it's not more filthy inside of this tank. Alright, so we got the tank cleared out and the best we could, and I had to remove this big metal piece that's holding it in, but we got that. Now, it's hard to see in here. This is the fuel filter, and all I need is like a piece of line that goes from the bottom of the tank to the fuel filter, which I have in here. There we go. And I just remembered that all I have is 2-stroke gas. So I can't even start this thing, but that's okay. We can get pretty close, and then tomorrow maybe we can button it up. Let's get this piece on there. Alright, so we got that piece on there. I swear that metal collar, that's as far as I can get it today. But this is a mechanical fuel pump, which is this. Works off of a vacuum. And that's what this line is your vacuum line. So it should hopefully have enough draw to suck the fuel up. And then we'll find out. Now what we got to do is check the oil. And alright, Sam came out to take the dog out. I got the battery connected. Put some oil in the motor. I know I got power. I obviously can't start it because there's no fuel, but let's just see if it turns over. I win. Okay, let's do that one more time. Sweet. Whoa, almost died. Alright, so that is going to be it for tonight. Tomorrow we add fuel, and we'll go from there. So stay tuned. I'm out here with my helper working on these tubes. So these are actually not bad. The way I broke the bead was I used my hammer here and I just put them on the ground. Actually show you. Put it on the ground, just step on the one side, and then using your weight, pushing the hammer, it'll pop the whole bead all at once. Then once I popped the bead, I had to cut the stem off because the tube has a different style. So here's what a stem looks like. And the key to that is you break the bead on the stem side, and then you just push it down, get your hand on the back here, and hold the back side of that stem, otherwise it'll roll around in the tire and you'll have to try to fish it out. And then you just cut it with a wire cutter on the front side. And then you can break the bead on both sides and actually take the tire off, but this way probably is just as much time and not as much of a hassle. But what I'm doing is I'm just using my pliers here, and you can use it either way, right? But I'm just prying this out, and it's nice and soft because it has a rubber covered ends, so it won't hurt the tube. And then I pry it out and I tuck the tube in, move over, pry it out, tuck the tube in all the way around. And then what I'll do, this is a valve stem tool. They're like a couple dollars at the store. I have that on there so it doesn't fall back in. And what I'll do is I'll actually remove this little part here. That little piece looks like this. That little tool, you remove it, and I'll use an air chuck, and I'll just, and it'll, I'm not trying to put the bead back on because that doesn't matter, it has a tube. What I'm doing is it's going to fill up with air, and then it will kind of shift it around in there so that when I do fill it with air, it won't have any wrinkles. So you blow it up with air so it can adjust itself, and then it deflates back down. And I think another key thing to point out is the tube stem is one-sided. So this has a blue line on it. Just so happened, I think that's what they're saying with the blue line is, hey, this side has to face the stem. But regardless, you have to make sure that the orientation of the stem is proper for in the tire. But these tubes, you can buy them for like 10, 15 bucks. That's the range that these ones were. Each one is like $13 or $14. But to buy one new tire is about $60 on the rim. So you can decide what you're going for. But these ones are dry rotted, but they have, like I said before, they have a lot of tread life. I mean, they still have the nubs on them because this machine only has 81 hours on it. So just from sitting there dry rotted, this thing's not going to be going down the highway at a million miles an hour. I don't have to worry about a blowout. So I'm just going to throw these tubes in, and even if I get 3-4 years of service before maybe it starts to peel off or whatever, that's a good investment for these tubes. So doing each one of these, it's going to take you about a half hour, but I think it's worth it in the time saving portion of it. So all right, you having fun, Rosie? Yeah, you're my helper. All right, I got to get back to it. I've seen some people using a screwdriver when they did this, but it was looked a little too rough for me. So we got our second tube put in. This one turned out good. I did verify by looking at the stem that it is offset this way, but it's not offset very much, so it does kind of pull that stem in there a little bit. Had the same issue on the other side, but I made sure I double checked, and yeah, that's how it is. It is kind of warm. Alright. So what we got going on right now is I just used a ratchet, actually like a pull style strap to pull up that mower deck a little bit, and then took it on a spin, but my phone overheated because it's out here in the sun and it's like 90 degrees out, but the UV index is pretty high. So took it around. I had let the phone cool down. I just mowed just 2 little swaths and it mows really nice. That's awesome though. It runs fantastic. The hydrostatic still works, which is nice. We're pretty much ready to go. All I need now is a nice house to mow the lawn at. All right.
Now, if only we had a yard to mow,